whereas many of these media figures and outlets were just mouthing the words to garner an audience. And so, even as I am largely quite depressed about the moment that we're in, I do think there is a large opportunity.
What's going on, you guys? Today we have Krystal Ball and Emma Vigeland calling out the knee bending of the Democratic voices, wink, wink, TYT, Cenk Uygur, Ana Kasparian, the same bunch that, are allowing the authoritarianism that's coming out of the Trump party, the Trump admin. But yeah, we have Krystal Ball and Emma Vigeland getting into it. Let's watch.
Musk owns this major communications platform, and Zuckerberg now, with his broccoli haircut on the frickin' Joe Rogan Experience, acting like he's a TikToker. They're all genuflecting. They all, this TikTok ban, if it goes through or if it's sold to somebody that Zuckerberg can work with, Instagram, that's their biggest competitor. Like, there's a lot on the line. And of course, the antitrust lawsuit about their purchase of Instagram and WhatsApp. But the whole salute thing, it's not the number one story in the end. But I do feel like the reaction has been indicative of the immense challenges that we face in this corroded communications environment. This billionaire owns this tech platform, and he scared a lot of outlets out of even talking about the fact that he appeared to allegedly do a Sig Heil at the inauguration. And it doesn't really even matter what the truth is, right? His heart goes out to you, yes. It doesn't matter what the truth is to an extent, because his fans and that alt-right, like almost Gamergate 4chan community that Bannon empowered and saw as the vision for Trump's base, and it's played out. It's what's happened. They're all they're post-truth people. They're postmodernists that believe that you just make your truth by speaking it, and there's no objective truth. That's right. I feel like because our politics are so captured by big money, because people feel like their voice is not heard democratically, and I include Biden in that, by not, stepping aside for a primary, that made people's voices feel like they weren't heard, and he didn't hear them on Gaza either. I feel like Trump's greatest accomplishment is the nihilism that he's engendered, and the fact that there's no objective truth and people don't know how to use their power in our society anymore, democratically or with their voice, because it's so corroded.
And that means that all the old sort of standard values.
At this point, Emma Vigeland is completely right. She's saying that we have, sort of devolved into a bunch of taxi driver watching, Joker enthusiast. We have, that is your everyday person at this point who is a supporter of, like a hard supporter of Musk. You have, you have everybody who, these young men, these young men sort of hate everybody besides themselves. They feel like they're not heard. They, whatever the reason may be, they do not care about anyone else at this point. And it's very, very disheartening. Very, very unsettling. We also lost a lot of people that don't necessarily know what a progressive value is. They don't even know what the left really stands for. If you talk to someone, they'll immediately start talking about these issues that are very, very hot topics, saying, oh, you want to keep immigrant criminals in the U.S. You want to perform sex change surgeries on young children. This is what they identify the left as. They don't identify the left with any certain values. It's just hot topics at this point, and we're losing a lot of people because we're not standing and saying what these values are.
Values of, like, sorry, the dog is like demanding attention.
That's okay.
All the old standard values of, like, humility or shame or empathy or mercy, in the words of the bishop who they were so angry dared to like preach this very basic Christian message of Christian tolerance. All those virtues are kind of out the window. It's like, the strongest survive, and the biggest liar, and the person who's willing to be the most shameless, and just go out there and get yours. I mean, that's the crypto ethos too, right? It's like, it's just no holds barred. Might makes right. You see this in foreign affairs as well, with what Israel's been able to get away with over the previous year. And it feels very much like that is the era that we live in. And part of what is so depressing. And, I'm like, we're going to keep fighting, and you never know where opportunity and hope presents itself. Like, there's always openings that emerge. But part of what is so depressing too is the level of capitulation, the lack of really, I mean, the Democratic Party is just so pathetic, right? They're ready to just capitulate and do kinder, gentler fascism by and large. Like, that seems to be the direction that they are going to go in. They're going to sign on to the Laken-Riley Act and swear that they're truly border hawks like Trump, and effectively adopt his worldview, sort of like Clinton adopted Ronald Reagan's worldview and consolidated the neoliberal era. So with some exceptions, like I would say AOC has been great, Bernie Sanders has been great. There are some exceptions, but overall, the Democratic Party has not had a credible organized resistance. Obviously, the media organizations are all like terrified. CNN is shifting Jim Acosta to the middle of the night or whatever. You had the George Stephanopoulos, ABC settled that big lawsuit. You have Washington Post, Jeff Bezos, that whole situation. You even actually had a story out today. I don't know if you guys saw this, Columbia Journal.
And what Krystal Ball is saying right now to Emma Vigeland and Sam Seder is that, it's like this movement is dying. This movement is dying out, but not dying out in a way that it's, just not cared about anymore, but it's dying out because of so much misinformation, because of it's getting lost in translation. Right now we have so much static, we have so much misdirection as far as, is this democratic movement just a lesser version of the right movement? Is it that's what it's become. It's just become the right's little brother that they're sort of making fun of, that, oh, you don't know any better, and it's really disheartening to see that the right is, they're pulling along by it's like pull yourself up by your bootstraps on steroids. It's like, oh, they're extremely strict father philosophy as far as like, hey, toughen up, and you're going to get this done by your willpower. You're going to get this done by strength. Strength is first, nurturance comes way after, and that's what it is. And that's sort of what the Democrats have taken on, because they don't know what their values actually are. They've lost their values. They've lost who they are.
Review. Talked to Paul Krugman. He left the New York Times because he felt like he was being throttled and censored there. Was that part of a pre-Trump capitulation as well? Joe and Mika going down to Mar-a-Lago. So even your like liberal style MSNBC resistance is by and large dead and gone. There are so few voices that are out there to really point out what is going on and most importantly, offer an alternative vision. Offer a different fork in the road that leads us away from authoritarianism and fascism and constant climate horror and turmoil. That it's difficult to see how we really get it together and really have a sort of forceful resistance against these powers.
If you guys like this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And
I've been heartened to see you guys, like, your channel's doing great. Kyle's channel is taking off. Like David Dole, Mike Figueredo, people who are, have a really great message and are not cowed and are, not afraid and bending the knee, etc. That's been very heartening to me, because I think probably the most important project right now, and this is something I think you guys have long done a great job at, a better one than I have, is taking liberals who are right now disaffected and helping to radicalize them into a true leftist worldview. And there's a lot of liberal disappointment with MSNBC and Washington Post and the Pod Save Bros and the New York Times, and their political leaders have let them down. Like, when those base voters were talking about fascism and saw Trump as a fascist threat, they actually meant it. Whereas many of these media figures and outlets were just mouthing the words to garner an audience. And so, even as I am largely quite depressed about the moment that we're in, I do think there is a large opportunity there for channels like yours, and, to the extent I have a voice out there as well, to try to articulate this alternative approach to combating fascism, which of course reaches into our own American history with FDR and the New Deal. And obviously of many people now that Bernie Sanders can never run for president again, being like, oh, it turns out that guy had some good ideas, etc. But to me, that's the project that kind of gives me life and keeps me going right now in this moment, which is very grim. And I will say one thing just to put out there on a hopeful note, as I know you guys need to wrap up and move on, but Branko Marcetic had a good column in for Jacobin about like, Trump, yes, he has a lot of power right now, but there are also a lot of weaknesses in the coalition. He did only win by 1.5 points. Like, he's coming into office with what for him is a pretty good approval rating, but historically for presidents, including Joe Biden, is quite a low approval rating. He's a lame duck. And so, this could end up being kind of the peak of his cultural and political power. So that's certainly a possibility as well as things play out. One thing I'll be watching is we mentioned that federal court decision on the birthright citizenship. They immediately smack it down. One thing we'll be looking to too is like, does he adhere to that? Because
so there we have it, you guys. We have Krystal Ball, Emma Vigeland, Sam Seder. They're calling out the ones that are just using these words like fascist, that are using these words like progressive, oh, I'm left, and they don't know what they're talking about, or they do know what they're talking about, but they're not wanting to actually stand for it. That's even worse. If I'm coming in with the assumption, that they just don't know, that they're misinformed. But if they do know, and then they're still just going against their values, I really don't believe that. I don't know. I still don't believe it. I believe that it's just people that are misinformed, such as Cenk Uygur and Ana Kasparian. Whenever they're saying that they are leftists, whenever they're saying that they're progressives, they use these words like fascism, these buzzwords, but they don't really know what they're talking about. They're under the spell of, getting paid off. They've become the ones that they're not a fan of. So I can only imagine that in a miseducation. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. It's another day in the progressive way.